were being raised by flower children and so on, how I parted my hair on the side and couldn't wear shorts. Okay, true story. But anyway,
I still think you were short.
there you go. But actually, to this day, yeah, don't get me started. Anyway, I was on the radio down here for a while. The reason I'm talking about Agenda 21 tonight is I'm coming down from Navajo County. I have a place up in Pinetop Lakeside. 2 years ago in 2011, actually in 2010, I'm going to go over specifics. There was a grant issued to a private organization in Apache County to start the planning process for sustainable development. I'm going to get into exactly what all that means here in just a moment. I know that there's some people here who probably know more about Agenda 21 than I do. And there's probably some people that don't. I'm going to guess I'm probably somewhere in the middle. Some of this stuff will be pretty basic. I apologize if it bores you if you already know about it. But my goal tonight is I want to... I got really tired of being called a conspiracy theorist, nut, etc. So I did a lot of time and effort to link the United Nations to St. John's, Arizona, which if you're from up there, that's kind of comical. But I can go with UN and US government documents. I can go in 4 steps from local Arizona to the United Nations, and it's their documents. So that's a big part of what I'd like to get across tonight. So, and I'm going to not bore you with anything else about me. Here we go. I like to start out with a founder's quote because, let's face it, they laid down the blueprint for us, and we forget them at our own peril. So, no people will tamely surrender their liberties, nor can be easily subdued when knowledge is diffused and virtue is preserved. On the contrary, excuse me, I lost my place. On the contrary, when people are universally ignorant and debauched in their manners, they will sink under their own weight without the aid of foreign invaders. Okay? I think we've kind of proved to the world that you don't get in a boxing match with Mike Tyson. That's the United States. Don't fight us in a war. But there's other ways to... Sun Tzu said that the wise man defeats his enemy without fighting, right? So, that was Samuel Adams. He said that in a letter to James Warren in 1775. Okay, tonight we're going to do a brief overview of Agenda 21. We are going to cover the connection between Agenda 21 and such concepts as sustainable development, sustainability, smart growth, livability, etc. All these great, fancy, warm, fuzzy words. We're going to go over why so few people have heard of Agenda 21. When we first started fighting this up there, it was not very few of us had heard of it, and granted we were up there in the country, but as you all know, I'm sure talking to your friends, Agenda 21, huh? You know, so. Let's see, Small Town AZ to the United Nations in 4 easy steps. How people in rural Arizona have convinced local and county governments to return their free grant money. And we actually did that.
Yes,
so
yes,
it can be done. It can be done. So, okay. And I couldn't resist Carlos Fuentes. He's an economist. He had a great quote. Evil knows itself to be evil, but it also knows goodness. And this is precisely its advantage. Perfect, absolute, total goodness does not know evil, and precisely because of this can fall victim to evil. Okay? You have to be able to admit that there's bad folks out there wanting to do bad things. Okay, this has already been covered, but here is, this is from mesaaz.gov. This is the city we're standing in's website. This is the Green Mesa sustainability part. Building a sustainable community. Sounds nice, doesn't it? This is another part of the Mesa website. We promote sustainable development. Okay, remember that. Key phrase. Okay, so what the heck is sustainable development, and what does it have to do with Agenda 21? Well, the term sustainable development entered the vocabulary in the 1990s. The term was first defined in the United Nations 1987 World Report on the World Commission on the Environment and Development, called Our Common Future. The commission was chaired by Gro Harlem Brundtland, who was vice chair of the World Socialist Party, and that's old Ms. Brundtland right there. She was also Prime Minister of Norway. On the 20th anniversary of the 1972 Stockholm Conference on the Human Environment, representatives from 178 nations and non-governmental organizations, which, by the way, that you hear NGO on the, whenever there's a disaster on the news all the time. NGO is actually a UN term and a UN concept. And other interested parties met in Rio de Janeiro to discuss global environmental issues that would become central to policy implementation. This first UN conference on the environment and development, UNCED for short, but better known as Year Summit, was a culmination of 2.5 years of worldwide consultation that demonstrates the best intentions of the human race to live responsibly. Okay? We don't want to be responsible.
That means to lower your standard of living.
We're going to get all that.
Sorry.
And FYI too, some of the slides that I have shamelessly pirated with permission from other folks. I didn't write all of them myself. Okay. In fact, if you guys have been on Tom DeWeese's website, there's a few coming up that I shamelessly stole from him. But I appreciate that. Okay. The report. This is from a UN document. The report of Habitat, United Nations Conference on Human Settlements. This happened in Vancouver in 1976. Chapter 1, Declaration of Principles. Chapter 2, Recommendations for National Action. Chapter 3, Land Participants. Quote, land cannot be treated as an ordinary asset controlled by individuals. Okay, just go that far. Okay. And subject to pressures and inefficiencies of the market. What two tenets of American freedom have we just said are, no good? The two basic ones, right? Private property and free enterprise. Private land ownership is also a principal instrument on accumulation and concentration of wealth and therefore contributes to social injustice. All countries should establish, guys, this is 1976.
That's not a new word.
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. All countries should establish as a matter of urgency a national policy on human settlements embodying the distribution of population over national territory. Such a policy should be devised to facilitate population redistribution to accord with the availability of resources. Okay? So somebody, a small group, is going to tell everybody where they get to live. What is non-sustainable? And this is from the Global Biodiversity Assessment Report from the it's a United Nations document. Just you can kind of take a look, but ones that I enjoyed: grazing of livestock, disturbance of soil surfaces. Quick, what's the disturbance of soil surface?
Farming. Mining.
You name it. Walking.
Yeah.
Single-family homes.
Yeah.
Private transportation. Guys, the light rail, which, how many times did we vote that down? Okay, but they kept coming back and coming back and coming back. And you will notice that they make all the nice, big, tall apartment buildings right on the light rail line, so you don't need a car, right? Think about this. Remember a few years ago when all the former Soviet republics were having the Orange Revolution and so on, and they were trying to throw off the last vestiges of tyranny and so on, left over from the Soviet Union, remember that? There was one of those former Soviet republics that did not, that the Velvet Revolution, Orange Revolution, whatever, did not succeed. Okay, and that was where it actually had widespread popular support, and that was Belarus. And if you're Russian, I apologize for my horrible pronunciation, but Belarus.
Belarus.
Belarus. There you go, Belarus. And what happened? A big part of that was when at the climax of the and I hope I'm getting my facts straight on this, but these come from a gentleman who was participating. At the climax, when they were having their big protests downtown and so on and so forth, blah, 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 it's a former Soviet republic. There is very little private ownership of automobiles and transportation assets. The public transportation system, amazingly enough, didn't run for several days, and protest, we couldn't all centralize and go down to the square, and the thing lost steam, and the secret police had enough time to catch up and catch the leaders and so on. Okay? So just think about it, guys. I will tell you this. Also, it is my understanding, I don't have the source right now, but that the generation in college right now has the lowest percentage of driver's license holders since we started doing driver's licenses. Guys, I don't know about you, but I couldn't get my driver's license fast enough. But now we don't because of the educational system, etc. People don't think it's necessary. And with the public transportation, maybe it's not. Okay, a few other things. Inappropriate social structures. What the heck is that? You know? Fossil fuels, logging activity, something near and dear to my heart. Attitudes towards nature, Judeo-Christian/Islamic religions. Okay, the sons of Abraham don't do well in the New World. Private property, etc. Okay, these are just a few things straight from their documents. Okay, now, Sustainable Development Agenda 21. Okay, this is, by the way, some of my screenshots are going to be dated because these websites are constantly being scrubbed and updated as they react to us fighting back. This is from UN.org. Okay, this is the United Nations website. And this is the Department of Sustainable Development. You will note on the same page, Agenda 21. And this is the Agenda 21 action guide. Okay, let me share a little bit with you. Agenda 21 is a comprehensive plan of action to be taken globally, nationally, and locally by organizations of the United Nations system, governments, and major groups in every area in which human impacts on the environment. Okay? Just really quickly, give me some examples of how humans impact the environment.
Breathing.
Living.
Bingo, that's what I was looking for. Breathing! When we breathe, we tamper with the amount, the gases in the air. Yes, okay? So what does this say? We want to control every aspect of every human being's life in the world. In the world! Okay? So, right here, their website, their words, Agenda 21, Sustainable Development, same thing. Okay? Straight from the horse's mouth. And the reason I'm stressing this will become readily apparent in just a moment. Okay, so, Agenda 21 is the implementation plan of action for the UN Sustainable Development Policy. Now, President George H.W. Bush Sr., he went to Rio de Janeiro in 1992 for the big Rio conference, etc. He said, we signed a climate convention. We've asked others to join us in presenting action plans for the implementation of the climate convention. Okay, it was a UN conference, and the American president is saying we're going to implement it. Okay? Many U.S. proposals on oceans and public participation on the importance of economic instruments and free markets were included in this mammoth Agenda 21 document and the Rio Declaration. Let me be clear on one fundamental point. The United States fully intends to be the world's preeminent leader in protecting the global environment. Okay? George H.W. Bush. Now, normally, I know I've got a room full of Constitution people here. How is a treaty ratified and put into effect under our current system? Constitutionally. President signs it, right?
Yeah.
And then?
The Senate must approve it by 2/3 vote of those present.
The Senate must ratify the treaty. Okay. Well, this is actually a press release from the White House from Monday, June 14th, 1993. This is on the Earth Summit anniversary. President creates Council on Sustainable Development. Respond to recommendations in Agenda 21, the Comprehensive International Policy Declaration, nations of the world agree to as a pledge to global environmental action, and to contribute the U.S. a plan to be submitted to the United Nations on Sustainable Development. The International Commission created at the Earth Day Summit to help ensure implementation of Agenda 21. The U.S. President, right there, is telling you that we are going to be subservient to the United Nations. Okay, and that's the President. It's not just me, the nut conspiracy guy running around.
Oh,
Pretty sure he's a pretty mainstream guy, right?
mainstream conspirator.
The ratification of Agenda 21 was never voted on by the Senate.
Right.
After Dr. Michael Kaufman presented the following map of the proposed development of the wildlands and human habitat zones specified under the Agenda 21 in the United States. 6 months after his inauguration, President Bill Clinton issued Executive Order 12852, which created the President's Council on Sustainable Development on June 29, 1993. No vote by any elected. Get back. No vote by the Senate. No vote by any elected representatives, with the exception of the President signing it. So, according to a nation of laws, according to our Constitution, according to the supreme law of the land, we didn't buy into that treaty. Okay? But the next president then implemented it on his own. Forget Monica Lewinsky. This is what we should have impeached Bill Clinton over. Okay? But think about this. Imagine a general, imagine that President Reagan goes to negotiate with the Soviets, and he sits there and he signs a treaty that's terrible, and the Senate says, forget it, we're not surrendering, we're not going to unilaterally destroy all of our weapons. And yet, suddenly, after that's done, the President signs an executive order, and the various armed services start sinking their own ships and destroying their own airplanes, etc., with no, what's the word I'm looking for? Without any approval by the legislative branch of the thing. How well would that go over? Well, that is what is going on in the United States today with Agenda 21. Okay, this is that map that was shown to Senate. And think about it, 1994, before the election, who controlled the Senate? Which party?
Before the Democrats did.
Absolutely. So how bad did it have to be? And God bless us all, I'm an independent, but how bad did it have to be for the Democratic Party to say, no, it infringes on American sovereignty, okay? Now, real quickly, look at these nice colors. This is all of the Convention on Biological Diversity, the Wildlands Project, other UN and U.S. Man and Biosphere programs, various UN, U.S. Heritage programs, and NAFTA. All of these treaties and agreements were looked at, and then they superimposed what they called for over a map of the United States. The red are core reserves and corridors. Little to no human use. Okay? Pretty sure there's a fair amount of private property in there. What do you think?
No, very little.
Buffer zones are in yellow. Highly regulated use. In other words, if you don't have a pass from the king to go there, you can't. Okay? The blue, greenish color is normal use zones of cooperation. So I hope you guys like the Mid-Atlantic and the South, because this is where our grandkids are supposed to live. This is lovely down here, the orange. Border 21, La Paz Sidebar Agreement of NAFTA. 124-mile wide and international zone of cooperation. Ever wonder why they can't seem to secure the border? They'd be violating a treaty if they did.
No, a treaty never approved.
NAFTA was absolutely ratified. Oh, you bet.
Okay, so this is an after one.
This is part of NAFTA. The pink is Indian reservations, and the black's military reservations. Bottom line, folks, honest to God, just in a side note, who the hell do they think they are? All right?
They want to be our rulers.
Right here. This is all the stuff from black and white actually shown what the idea is. But I'm the nut conspiracy guy. Because what? I know people that actually read the documents. Okay.
Yes.
James Madison in March of 1792 said, where an excess of power prevails, property of no sort is duly respected. No man is safe in his opinions, his person, his faculties, or his possessions. Our founding fathers were psychic, because human nature doesn't change. The tools that they use change, but the actual idea of a small elite trying to tell everybody else what to do has never changed. Whether it's the high priest in ancient Babylonia, or the well, pick one of your favorite ones today. It's all the same thing, same idea. Human nature doesn't change. Okay, so all right. Up until how come I've never heard of Agenda 21? How come most people have never heard of Agenda 21?
It's under the radar.
Sure, it's under the radar. But how can it be? It's the United Nations. The president signed it.
It's called
How can it be under the radar?
sustainable development.
You have a bad
Everyone
meeting.
loves sustainable development.
It's cool.
I'm going to show you. I'm going to show you in black and white with United Nations documents why nobody's ever heard of it. This was issue number 2 of the Future of Local Agenda 21 in the New Millennium by J. Gary Lawrence. Okay, he's an American fellow. The Millennium Papers are a series of discussion booklets which will be brought out by UNED UK between now and Earth Summit 3 in 2002. The second of the Millennium Papers is jointly brought out with LGMB, blah, blah, blah. It takes a strategic view of the lessons from Local Agenda 21 and the way forward. Okay?
Forward.
This is actually the transcript of a speech given by an American in England. Very important to know who did it and where they did it.
Was he a member of the CFR?
The future, you know what, I don't know probably. The future of Local Agenda 21 in the new millennium. Once again, J. Gary Lawrence. Gary Lawrence is one of the key thinkers on sustainable development, and advisor to the U.S. President's Council on Sustainable Development, director of the Center for Sustainable Communities at the University of Washington, and chief planner of the City of Seattle. So, okay, what two power bases is he involved in? Two tremendously important ones. We've been talking about the Common Core education, right? Education and actually the level of government that has the most power and that we actually deal with the most in reality, local city and town level, okay? Now, Local Agenda 21 also suggests tools for use by local authorities to address these economic, environmental, and social questions. Remember, guys, this was an international treaty that we rejected, but they went around the representatives of the people. Why do we have the Senate? So that we've got 100 guys who can actually pay attention, read this stuff, and then know our views, and on our behalf settle it. Because it would be incredibly difficult to, you can't have a real democracy, you can't have, 300 million people trying to vote on a treaty, right? So we got our 100 good ones, okay? Went around that. Absolutely went around that. So I would argue that implementation of any of this at any level is a crime because it is wholly unconstitutional, and I'm naive enough to think that the Constitution is the supreme law of the land, right?
Right.
That's just my view. Okay, back to our thing here. I digress. In the case of the United States, our local authorities are engaged in planning processes consistent with Local Agenda 21. Oh, I apologize. This was from one very important thing. Where's the date? 29 June 1998 is when this was written. Okay. Now, let's see. Our local authorities are engaged in the planning processes consistent with Local Agenda 21, but there is little interest in using the Agenda 21 brand. Participating in a UN-advocated planning process would very likely bring out many of the conspiracy-fixated groups and individuals in our society, such as the National Rifle Association. Okay, last time I checked, the NRA wasn't exactly a conspiracy group, okay? But anyway. And some members of Congress. So once again, they are specifically trying to go around our elected officials. What kind of a government is that? Okay, don't answer, you know. This segment of our society would actively work to defeat any elected official who joined the conspiracy by undertaking Agenda 21. So we call our processes something else, such as comprehensive planning, growth management, or smart growth. This is why you've never heard of Agenda 21. They've been doing it since 1993, and they've just not been telling you what the heck they were doing.
Because they know no one would want it.
Exactly. Oh, absolutely.
Well, and Sam, we need to remember that the EPA was started by Nixon, and that started, all that started taking
right.
land, especially logging and mining and ranching and farming.
Absolutely.
Way in the 70s.
Well, it goes even back further than that.
Yes.
Absolutely. These are some of the more non-threatening expressions to say instead of Agenda 21, instead of centralized control.
Oh, yeah.
Equity, consensus, affordable housing. You want affordable housing, don't you? Come on, what kind of a horrible person are you? Facilitator. Best management practices, I love that. Well, you want to do things the best way, don't you? Best management. The thing being, though, is what this comes down to. Is these management practices, what that is code for, is I'm going to take my instructions from somebody else.
Or government.
Public-private partnerships, stakeholder, etc., interdisciplinary, blah, blah, blah. These are just some examples, but this is Orwellian doublespeak. It exists, as we all know, and here are some fine examples of it. Oh, traffic calming, that's a good one too. Traffic's bad because my car is angry. It will just calm down. Folks, this was such a big subject, it would have been a 5-hour presentation if I went into detail on everything. So, very quickly, this is from an organization's website called ICLEI USA. ICLEI stands for the International Council on Local Environmental Initiatives. What that is, is the actual working arm of Agenda 21. Okay, and we'll go into a little more on that. But I just had to throw this up there because this is ICLEI USA. Resources from ICLEI's April 5, 2012 training to help local governments respond to the Agenda 21 conspiracy theory. Okay, guys, they are well aware of us, and I take this as a giant compliment. But what I would like to show you too, though, is view it now. It's a webinar, right? The reason this is locked up and members only, and by the way, we need to get somebody who is in some friend of a friend who's in city government so I can get in here. I want to see what this is. But I'm going to be showing you parts of a webinar that they didn't lock up. And I'm going to be proving a lot of other stuff in just a minute with their own stuff. But here we go. Okay, so the entire program is based on deception. And this goes back to the comment we had earlier. Why, if it's such a great idea, if it's just for helping everybody and it's going to make the world a better place and you want to be nice to the poor people and so on, if it's just for that, why do they have to lie about it? Why is it that the average American has a healthy distrust of the United Nations? Well, we've seen them in action. The bottom line being is that if this goes into the Fabian concept, but if they had the argument, said, hey guys, I got this great idea, we're going to do away with private property, we're going to make everybody live in certain designated areas, and you can't have a car anymore, and haha, congratulations, you're a vegetarian. How many people here would vote for that?
Yeah.
How many people anywhere would vote for that? There'd be a few. But they can't, so they have to repackage it, they have to deceive you. So, bottom line, is this such a good thing? Why do you have to lie about it? Don't believe me? And I know this is a friendly audience, but this has been done in non-friendly audiences. By the way, I'm giving this to city councils, by the way, so if you can get me on the docket at your city council, I can take this all the way down to about 12 minutes. But anyway, you don't believe me? Okay. Would you believe Sam Farr, a current sitting congressman from California's Santa Cruz in that area, okay? House of Representatives, June 3rd, 1997. Okay, insert term limit joke here. Okay. I am right. Okay, remember, here's the thing. Remember that the document that said we can't call it Agenda 21 anymore came out in 1998, right? This document is 1997. I am right to congratulate you, the Advisory Board and Action Santa Cruz, an NGO, Action Santa Cruz County Coalition for completing the local Agenda 21 action plan. They were at least honest about it. I support the principle of sustainable development to balance the needs of economic growth, environmental stewardship, and social equity. Okay? Social equity. Here's the thing, though. Agenda 21, sustainable development. Agenda 21, sustainable development. Okay? This was the fight that we had up there, and it took me way too long to find this stuff, but this is what you have to get through, because what you're going to get, oh, you're nuts. I don't get my, I had this guy named Hank Rogers in front of, I don't get my spaceship signed by the United Nations. You stop it. I'm really tired of you saying this blah, 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 blah. And I said, you know what, Hank? I didn't say that you got your paycheck from the United Nations, but the money was directed to you by their planning process. And in just a minute, I'm going to prove it. I'm spearheading a similar effort to develop a process for sustainable development planning for the entire Monterey Bay region. The local Agenda 21 action plan not only has local significance, but it will also have regional and national impacts. 1997, guys. Okay, and a little bit more. This is for the non-believers. This is www.state.gov. This is the U.S. State Department's official website. This is their Sustainable Development page. OES works bilaterally and multilaterally to promote the U.S. government's Sustainable Development Agenda within the UN context. Okay? Who's a conspiracy nut now? Okay? Is it a conspiracy if they're really doing it? For example, OAS leads the department's efforts with the UN Commission on Sustainable Development. This is a government, U.S. government. I didn't write this. It's isn't handwritten. This isn't a fuzzy, film of Bigfoot. This is the State Department website. Okay, a little bit more. The United States is pleased to participate and to contribute to a successful Rio 2012 Conference on Sustainable Development to make real progress towards achieving sustainable development. We understand that while the United Nations and national governments are essential to sustainable development, we are beginning to engage our stakeholders, and that's a good word, including non-governmental organizations, local and regional governments. EDAC is actually the NGO in the little tiny, less than 100,000 population, Apache County, Arizona. They got an $800,000 grant to implement this garbage. Okay?
Don't forget academia.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Oh, is academia on there?
Yeah,
Absolutely.
right next to them.
Okay, whoops, sorry. I will highlight that next time. Oh, by the way, just so you know, the first sustainable development major of any university in the country is at Arizona State.
Oh,
Yes.
And the dean of the Sustainable Development School, or whatever you call it, is a UN hero of the environment.
Yes.
How many people remember the Soviet Union? What was the highest award you could get in the Soviet Union? If you killed lots of Nazis or Americans or whatever you had to do. Hero of the Soviet Union. That just strikes me as interesting. Okay, whoops. Okay, here we go. All right. Now, we're going to go from the United Nations to St. John's, Arizona, 4 easy steps. United Nations, blah, blah. Remarks by Mr. Shah Zukang, Undersecretary General for Economic and Social Affairs, Secretary General of the 2012 UN Conference on Sustainable Development. Okay? And this is from the National Press Club. Okay? This isn't a grainy film of Bigfoot. This is their stuff. Okay? This is from June of 2011. Okay. Now, whoa, look. ICLEI, it's on ICLEI's letterhead. Wow, okay. U.S. Green Building Council, I think we had a reference to them earlier this evening. Boom, okay? Now, once again, I really want to stress, he is the Secretary General of the United Nations Conference on Sustainable Development, okay? He's the guy, okay? Now, blah, blah, blah. ICLEI, the International Council for Local Environmental Initiatives, or Local Governance for Sustainability, you are a long-time partner of the United Nations going back to 1992 in Rio. I didn't say it. I know I'm butchering his name, but Mr. Zukang, the guy at the United Nations, he said it. So I'm going to believe it, okay? The U.S. Green Building Council, the custodian of the well-known LEED Green Building Standard. These guys are all partners, okay? Because I work for the Green Building Council and I don't get my paycheck signed by the United Nations, doesn't mean that I'm not implementing their policies here. These are some more excerpts. The Rio +20 conference will help set the sustainability agenda for the 21st century. It will also mark 20 years after the groundbreaking Earth Summit, where the world first met to chart the course for sustainable development. Can you see kind of a pattern here? Okay, Agenda 21, Sustainable Development. Said Martin J. Chavez, Executive Director at ICLEI, USA, and former 3-term Mayor of Albuquerque, New Mexico, we strongly believe that the Rio +20 will have profound implications for global climate, energy, and environmental priorities over the next 20 years. Local governments will play a key role in implementing sustainability. Local governments like, I don't know, Mesa, Arizona? Chandler, by the way, is an ICLEI member. I'm sure the gal from Chandler knows that.
Yes, I do, and I met with the city manager.
Okay, this is back to the ICLEIUSA.org website, okay? Is sustainable development the same as Agenda 21? Hey, it's a great question, right? We've been trying to figure that out all night. No. No. Sustainability is a mainstream concept, and sustainability initiatives in government, corporate America, academia, and local communities typically have no connection to Agenda 21. Okay.
Oh, wow.
What is typically? That means usually, right?
Yeah.
Usually they don't, so that means sometimes they do. But they just said no!
That's not true.
They're lying on their own website in the first paragraph. But if you think that it's a UN thing, you're a nut conspiracy theorist, and you probably have tinfoil, and obviously we don't need to listen to you because you're tainted, or you wouldn't have this bad opinion. Gosh. In other parts of the world, local governments and other stakeholders have more directly supported the principles of Agenda 21. Okay, wait a minute. Okay, it's not, but it is. But it's not, but it is. Well, it is over there, but it's not over here, usually. Okay? ICLEI has supported these local governments in their efforts. So, ICLEI supports local governments in Agenda 21. In America, sustainability usually isn't, but it might be. Okay. So, one thing that we got, and by the way, folks, the fight up there is ongoing. And there's a lot of very good people that are still fighting it, and I was just a tiny little part of it. I don't want it to all sound like I did not do it that much in comparison to a lot of other people, okay? But what we got a lot was, but we're not members of ICLEI, so it's okay. You got to know this guy, Hank Rogers. He's a big old, like 280-pound guy, and he likes to go like this. And it's like, I'm Irish, and I was in the Marines 4 years, and it was like, really, dude? It's just, you picked the wrong runt, you know? I mean, sorry, okay, I digress. You had to be there like 5 different times. And finally I said, you know, Hank, I'm not one of your kids, A, and B, this didn't work the last 4 times. Is it going to work now? You know? So. Anyway, God bless Hank. Okay, this is St. John's, Arizona, and I wanted to show this to you because this is where St. John's is. If any of you, how many people do you think could find St. John's on a map if I didn't show you? A few, and that's because we got good people from Arizona here, but overall, you know, St. John's has a population of 3,400, okay?
I've been there, broke down there once.
Yes, and you know what, 3,400, honest to God, I'm like, where? They must be counting like a 10-mile radius, okay?
Oh, yeah.
Paine killed his dad there.
That's right.
Branches.
This is a letterhead from the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development, and when I think of urban, that means city, right? I automatically think of towns in Arizona of 3,400, right? City? October 14th, 2010, Apache County, St. John's, Arizona. Dear Sustainable Communities Regional Planning Grant Program applicant, HUD Office of Sustainable Housing and Communities is blah blah blah, pleased to announce announce that your application submitted in response to a 2010 Notice of Funding Availability entitled Sustainable Communities Regional Planning Grant Program has been selected for a grant award. The amount you are eligible to receive is $820,500. That is a lot of money in a little town.
It sure is.
Now, okay, remember I was going to tell you about the webinar that they did lock up? This is it. And I defaced it terribly with my graffiti. Okay, this is the Department of Housing and Urban Development, Department of Transportation, Environmental Protection Agency, Sustainable Grants Partnership Program. Who are they partnering with? ICLEI USA. Okay? ICLEI. Remember Mr. Zukang was saying that ICLEI is our partner in the United Nations implementing Agenda 21 since 1992? Okay, well, who else are we going to partner with here? Okay? Now, the agenda, how appropriate. Okay, ICLEI, Local Government Sustainability, blah, blah, is going to do the introduction. The overview on the Sustainable Communities Partnership is going to be done by the EPA Smart Growth Office. Okay? Now, Sustainable Communities Planning and Community Challenge Grants. Mr. Dwayne Marsh, HUD Office of Sustainable Housing and Communities. Okay? Office of Housing and Sustainable Housing and Communities. Okay? So, this letter to a guy in St. John's, Arizona came from the Department of Housing and Urban Development, which is partnered with the International Council for Local Environmental Initiatives, which the Secretary General of Rio Plus 20 said was their partner since 1992, when the Rio Accord was signed. Okay? So, what do we have? We have St. John's, Arizona, an NGO receiving a grant letter, step 1. We have Housing and Urban Development Step 2, which is a partner with ICLEI. Step 3, which is a partner with the United Nations. Step 4, local Arizona to United Nations in 4 easy steps.
Say that again, please.
Okay.
St. John's receiving
It's not the city of St. John's, it's a non-governmental organization in St. John's that was actually created specifically to facilitate that. By the way, there's so much, sorry guys, I'm scatterbrained anyway. Yes ma'am, it was an NGO in St. John's, Arizona, received a grant from the Department of Housing and Urban Development, which is partnered with ICLEI USA, which is partnered with the United Nations. Their documents, yes ma'am?
Didn't Hank Rogers set up that organization in St. John's?
No, he did not.
Who set it up?
Well yes and no. Okay, do you guys know Hank?
Well, I do. And
Okay.
I know he's been really heavily involved and he just could not get it.
Okay, I guess, just for the question, and I don't want to make this go a real long time, and I'm going to go over, I don't want to go over. Just real quickly, what happened up there, folks, was this. What they do is they find a vulnerable area and a vulnerable citizen. And I shouldn't have said any names, but a certain gentleman was a failed businessman. Okay, and in small towns, it's hard to make a living. I'm down here in Phoenix, and guys, God bless you all. I'm glad to have all my new friends, but I would much rather be at 7,000 feet right now, I promise, okay? He was out looking for grant money, anything to help the thing. The thing being is the reason that the area is depressed up there is because the EPA destroyed the only real industry we had, which was logging.
Yeah.
So now we're supposed to lick the hands of the guy who hit us and destroyed our industry, and then they're going to give us a little bit of something, and we're supposed to be grateful. Okay? Well, some people are. They find a vulnerable person, and they threw a 6-figure salary at him. Of this 800 grand, between the guy who wrote the grant, who was the consultant, the facilitator brought in from Washington State or Oregon anyway, and Hank. That was more than 50%, more closer to 60% of that 800 grand was 2 of their salaries. Okay?
Wow.
And that was actually one way that we thought it was. We read their budget, we read everything, and we said, whoa, 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 because they were giving the cities. Here's your $15,000 to write this plan, while the $300,000 man wrote the plan for you. Okay?
So isn't that kind of the general pattern? You set up an organization,
Yes.
then you apply for the grant.
The general pattern is you either partner with or create an NGO, and then you feed it money, and then it goes from, that's very grossly simplified, but yes, they do that.
I was going to say, if I got it correctly, it seems like it's essentially a small-time field test.
Well, what this particular one is they've got tentacles everywhere, but what they will do is say, whoa, it's only going to be Apache County and New York City, so you're our test things, which is an absolute lie, but it makes people, wow, we're doing, they chose us over everybody else to be like New York. And that's just a tactic, okay? This whole thing, vanity is my favorite sin, if you know the movie reference. Wow, it's mind-boggling. They make mayors who sign on to it, they make them cool mayors. I kid you not. That is on the ICLEI website. You are a cool mayor. Mind-boggling. Okay, so anyway, sorry guys, I'm going to wrap this up. Okay, now another thing though is they've got this money. We congratulate you, blah, blah. We look forward to assisting you in implementing your program. Welcome to the Sustainable Communities Regional Planning Grant Program. Because you get a lot of, they have no power, we can't enforce it, it's just a plan. We need some money, we'll take the money, we'll hire another secretary, I created a job. Thank God, I created a job. And the thing is, yeah, a horrible part-time job that's soul-sucking, but anyway. Soul-destroying, sorry.
It is.
Anyway, but the thing is that implementation. Okay, quickly to our pirated webinar. Okay, they are committed to the 6 common livability principles. Because of the pushback, they no longer talk about these. But here's the thing: the Sustainable Communities Partnership, blah blah. 6 livability principles. Provide more transportation choices. In reality, that is, we're going to give you private transportation and tax the snot out of your gas so you can't drive. Yeah. Promote equitable, affordable housing. Equitable. Okay.
Equal.
Exactly. Exactly. You guys,
Everybody lives in 500 square feet.
big, long, Soviet-style concrete boxes. You gotta wait 10 years to get one. Okay, sorry, that's, okay, total opinion. Enhance economic competitiveness. The thing is, you'll notice all of these are very, very broad and vague, so they can mean anything they want.
Low-paying jobs.
Support existing communities. You want to support existing communities, don't you? You hate Mesa. You don't want to support, it's an existing community. Coordinate policies and leverage investment. Because I'm a simple man, Value communities and neighborhoods. Well, you want to value your neighborhood, don't you? Of course this is a good thing. They're going to value us. This is the Northeastern Arizona Sustainability Consortium website. This was the NGO that the grant money was used to create its own NGO. This is the one that the gentleman that I referred to worked for, the facilitator worked for, and so on. And they said, we have nothing to do with sustainable, we have nothing to do with blah, blah. Okay, this is program goals. Provide more transportation choices. Promote equitable, affordable housing. Enhance economic competitiveness. Coordinate policies, leverage investment, support existing communities. Sounds familiar, doesn't it? Okay, oh, by the way, I checked last night. This website is gone, gone, gone. Hey, but then, okay, it's just a plan. It's a plan, we're not going to really do anything. Same webinar, okay? $400 billion for comprehensive regional planning, $3.75 billion for implementation of plans, urban and rural. Coordinate strategic regional transportation, economic, environmental, land use, and housing. Okay? Notice it doesn't say public land use, does it?
No, that's
How does this affect Mesa? This used to say, how does this affect Taylor? Because that's where I originally gave this one to their city council. But this is, I couldn't find ICLEI membership for Mesa, but amazingly enough, last night, the ICLEI website members area hasn't been updated since 2008. So nobody on the left is a good computer guy? George Soros can't afford to, hire a computer guy? $3 billion can't hire a guy that can update your website? Just, all right. Okay, this is from the National League of Cities. This is a non-governmental organization which a friend of mine was recently elected city council up at Pine Top Lakeside. First thing that they did, at your expense, taxpayers, was send her to go be trained by the National League of Cities on how to be a city council member. Okay? National League of Cities. And this is from the Mesa, this is National League of Cities. Okay. NLC delegation champions local government at climate talks. National League of Cities was present to represent the voice of local government at the 15th United Nations Climate Change Conference. This was the one in Copenhagen where it snowed on them when they were protesting about global warming. And completing the delegation were 3 staff members, all from the NLC Center for Research and Innovation. Ken Rosenfeld and Tammy Zaboral for the Sustainability Program, sustainability, and Jim Brooks, who oversees international programs. But, okay, National League of Cities, national, that means country, right? But there's their international portion. But you're a conspiracy nut if you think it has anything to do with anything beyond, it's all local. It's all just local people getting together. And the NLC delegation working with partner organization, ICLEI USA. Okay, National League of Cities partners with ICLEI. Okay, ICLEI UN, right? Okay. Oh, whoops. Okay. Now, so it's in Mesa, but here's the deal. Back to our webinar. What they want to do, the grant program goals, expedite changes in local zoning and land use. Whose land? Zoning affects what kind of land?
Private.
Private.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I think 2 slides back you had one about Dina Higgins.
Oh yeah, yep, absolutely. Yep.
But yeah, you skipped through.
I'm sorry. You're absolutely right. Oh, I sure did. Thank you very much. Okay, Mesa website. December, a couple months ago, Councilwoman Higgins appointed vice chair of NLC committee, National League of Cities. Okay, so National League of Cities partnered with ICLEI, partnered with the UN. Okay, now they were here in the UN thing. Okay, now what else were their goals? Prepare for implementation and demonstrate on-the-ground results. And folks, right here, I was going to say, let's look at some on-the-ground results from around the country. And this is a great video by the Pacific Legal Center. but what I forgot was a radio to play it so you all could hear it. It's just it's a slideshow with a voiceover about people in California and across the country who have had their land seized by the EPA for wetlands, who have had things like their building permit was revoked after they completed construction and they were forced to tear their own house down, etc. I really apologize that I was not smart enough to put that on.
Tell me what's the website?
It's the organization, I believe, is called the Pacific Legal. It'll say
Pacific Legal Center.
Pacific Legal Foundation. Is that right? I believe, yeah, it's something like that. I apologize, but this actually I stole off of YouTube, and it just goes through what they're fighting. And they had some people who had inherited a beach home in California. You can imagine what that was worth. They applied for a building permit to remodel it. Long story short, 6 years later, they don't own the house anymore. Okay. So anyway, okay. Well, we'll save a little time there. Okay. Going back to the consortium, the reason I'm going to this one is this is the one that I dealt with personally. Okay. Who has withdrawn? Navajo County withdrew, gave back the money. City of Shola withdrew, gave back the money. City of Pine Top Lakeside withdrew, gave back the money. City of Springerville withdrew, gave back the money, although it wouldn't surprise me if they got back into it.
These are all grants like the $800,000?
This was part of the $800,000. We give 500 and some.
$15,000 or something.
They gave $15,000 out to like 30 different entities and kept almost $600,000 between two people. Okay. Oh yeah, but hey, all the animals are equal. All the animals are equal. Don't forget that. Okay.
But accolades to those that gave it back.
Oh, absolutely. Oh yeah, and folks, the thing is that I could do a whole other long thing about how we did it, but in a nutshell, this is what happened. Okay. First of all, the local citizens were paying attention. Okay. We looked once. We actually had a reporter up there who was anything. She is far from being on the right side of the house, but she actually did a story about the grant, and that got the ball rolling. And there were a couple of organizations, both the Apache and Navajo County Republican committees were instrumental in this, as well as an organization called the White Mountain Conservatives. Anyway, we looked at their websites carefully. We just read their stuff, okay? Then we researched their budgets, their contracts, the people, etc. The facilitator was actually he had settled out of court to get the charges dropped on a delinquency of a minor and sexual misconduct with a minor charge. And what we did was we found him, but we didn't want to totally go after him, because if we did, the fear was, oh, we replaced him, everything's fine now, you can have this. But what happened was that was, and folks, this is distasteful, but it's how things get done sometimes. We did have people who knew people, council members and so on, behind closed doors, kind of a whisper campaign, say, hey, by the way, here is a DVD with all of the court documents, et cetera, on this slimy, you know what.
So you get out of office?
Well, he was never in office. He was a facilitator. He was a $350,000 man, and no. But because elected officials were afraid of being, if it had gone public, they were afraid that, oh, we're in in cahoots with an organization that's run by a child molester, and it's not a good win, but you'll take the win. That was instrumental in getting Navajo County out of it. Although, fortunately, we have really good people on the board now. Former Senator Allen is now on the Navajo County Board of Supervisors, which helps. But okay, we paid attention. We researched everything. Believe me, in the bad economy, when everybody is starving and so on, and you're cutting firewood for a living because that's all you can do, you find out that there's people making hundreds of thousands of dollars in your local community. It just doesn't sit well. We got together. Okay, hate to use the O word, but we organized. We all got together and did stuff.
Organized your communities?
Pardon?
Organized your
Yeah.
Of stakeholders.
And we showed up.
Like this?
At every, they got to where, because the thing is you've got, we showed up to all the public meetings and raised hell, so then we were trying to, they had to be very careful, because then we were, what's the law in Arizona, public, open meeting laws. They were scared to death because we were really hammering them. We were trying to get them on an open meeting rap, so to speak. And so that long story short, this is what you've got to do, and you've got to speak out. And there's a lot of, I didn't want to go into a lot of the tactical stuff and so on and so forth, but this is overall, this is what we did. Okay? The fight's not over, because with that kind of money, they had $800,000 for the planning. Implementation is obviously going to be in the millions. And that's what they're trying to get up there, because they, you know, obviously what they did was a certain local citizen who had deep ties in the community, they bought him off. Here's $100,000 now, $150,000 now, and you know, when the millions come in, you know, we'll, this top-heavy, ridiculous thing will pay you off then. And so he used his local ties in the community, et cetera, say, hey, this is a great thing, you know, da-da-da. He actually said when, because he, God bless him, didn't mean to ambush him, but we did. I gave a presentation similar to this, but a little more fiery, right before he came to speak to our group. He was on the docket after me. And he got up there and said, if any of that's true, I'll pull the plug myself. My kids are all in Iraq. I love this country, blah, blah, blah. Okay? So then later on, when we proved it was from the UN, he didn't give the money back. Wow. Wow. Anyway, so, I digress. So the thing being, though, folks, there is hope. You can do it. What's Tom DeWeese's website?
Policy Center.
AmericanPolicyCenter.org is the original Anti-Agenda 21 organization, and they have handouts that you can give to. They actually have a sheet called a affirmation of public-private property, and you can fill it out and take it to your council people and say, here, hey, you want to put your money where your mouth is? Sign this. Okay? They have whole kits, DVDs, they have everything that you can to fight this stuff. I highly recommend it. Okay? So, okay.
What was that website one more time?
AmericanPolicyCenter.org.
You could probably look up Tom DeWeese and you'd find it too, couldn't you?
Probably, yeah. You Google Tom DeWeese or American Policy Center, you'll get it.
Yeah.
His kid is worthwhile too.
Absolutely, yeah. And they have kits. You can actually, it's a whole thing. They've got an amazing amount of material. It's really good stuff. And they're not the only ones. There's a lot of others out there. But anyway, they're the original ones. Okay, so to wrap it up, this is what you got to remember, and what needs to be brought up. By the way, I've given this. I gave this presentation to Snowflake City Council and to Taylor City Council, a much shorter version. But if I don't live in Mesa, but if you guys can, as residents, can get me on the docket, it is possible. It's hard, but it's possible. I'd gladly do this in front, you know, to all the folks. Okay.
We'll try.
And this is the big thing that we have to remember, and what you have to ask your elected officials. If this is such a good thing, why they gotta lie about it? I mean, it's a very simple thing, but. So, that's it. Thanks very much.
I have a question.
Sure.
You're probably aware, last year at the Rio Summit, that was the 20-year anniversary, they were talking about how are they going to implement this, where are they going to get all the funding for the grants, and they mentioned special drawing rights going to an international currency so that they can go through the IMF to have more fiat currency, which is political money, so they can do all this. So,
right.
Could they do this if we were all on gold and silver?
No.
No, not at all. The reason that they're able to do this is, look guys, it's a perfect storm of all the stuff that we know is bad. Okay, the majority of, actually, well, the vast majority of all the money to implement it in the United States is tax dollars. Okay, and the ICLEI is funded by grants. The international portion is funded by the IMF and by Soros and all these other, you know, philanthropists and so on. But it's your tax dollars, guys, and you know, Thomas Jefferson said that to take money in the form of taxes from a person to implement things that he abhors is tyranny. Anyway, so there's a lot of things that get together on it. So yes, ma'am.
Have you been able to connect the funding for the biomass plant in Snowflake and the wind farms up there?
No, ma'am. The trying to make a living and so on. This is actually the result of many hours of research, and that's one particular thing that I have not pursued. But that's the thing, though, is that you know that's the thing that we have guys, especially retirees, that have the time to do the research. Like I didn't find the webinar. The webinar was given to me by a retired gentleman who said, hey, I found this, I think you might be interested in it. And I was like, oh my God, you gave me the golden goose, finally. That was the missing part that connected the UN to ICLEI. So that was huge, but there's all kinds of stuff that you guys can do. You don't have to, there's so much stuff that the individual can do, it's unbelievable. Because whatever your little piece is, you hand it off, and slowly it all comes together, and this little presentation is the result of input from probably, conservatively speaking, 8 or 9 people. So
That's awesome.
So yeah, and so it just I put it together, but it's from lots of folks. So.